Hey guys, what's going on? It's Gatsu. It's been a while, and I'm here to talk to you about Fire Mage. Now, Fire Mage has been something that I've actually spent a bunch of time playing over the past couple of months. Fire Mage is really good. Really, really good. Both in Mythic Plus and in Raid. It pretty much has the same role in both. Good, strong AoE damage, and very, very powerful burst. So, without further ado, let's hop into our talents here. Now, talents for Fire Mage are fairly consistent for every build. The only row that I have really changed all that much has been my level 90 row, depending on the situation, as well as the level 60 row, basically depending on what the dungeon called for and what our group needed. I have been PvPing a little bit. The talents are probably wrong, but we've been through that before. Remember, I don't really PvP. Alright, so row 1 here, the pick almost, I'd say probably 99% of the time is going to be Searing Touch. Scorch deals a 150% increased damage and is a guaranteed crit when the target is below 30% HP. Now the best part about Searing Touch is it essentially gives us an execute, which most classes do not have right now. With that, Scorch dealing 150% increased damage, as well as being a guaranteed crit for that execute phase, that gives us 100% certainty that we're going to be able to essentially go Scorch, Scorch, Pyro, Scorch, Scorch, Pyro during the end of the fight. And if it is extremely heavy movement, we don't care, because we can do our entire rotation during execute while we are moving. Searing Touch is incredible. Like I said, 99% of the time you're going to be taking Searing Touch, so get used to it, it's pretty good. Level 30 row here, you have your choice of either Shimmer, which is pretty much the default choice for pretty much anyone that's running just about anything right now. It gives you 2 charges of Blink, essentially. Super useful, super strong, just gives you more mobility, which Fire is also probably one of the most mobile DPS specs in the game. And then, of course, you have Blazing Soul. If for some reason you're going to be able to just kind of, stand there 90% of the time, and you don't need that extra charge, Blazing Soul will just give you an extra Blazing Barrier whenever you go and you blink. So, pretty useful if you just need that extra defensive and you're not going to need the double blinks that Shimmer would give you. Level 45 row, anytime we are able to use Rune of Power so that we can stack Rune of Power in with our combustion window, you want to be running Rune of Power. It is incredibly powerful, incredibly strong, and it is pretty much the only thing we want to take. If for some reason we're not going to be able to make good use of Rune of Power, then the only other choice is Incanter's Flow. This is cyclical, we're going to be able to see it, cycling up and down the whole time. It is a good, strong talent. Unfortunately, with the way Rune of Power works, though, we always want Rune of Power when we can make use of it. Mirror Image is just not good right now. Don't waste your time with Mirror Image. Now, the level 60 row is a little less straightforward. Flame On is my default choice. It just reduces the cooldown of Fire Blast by 2 seconds and increases the max number of charges by 1. The best part about Flame On is that, once again, it's an extra charge of Fire Blast. Fire Blast is off the GCD, and Fire Blast is a ton of damage. It crits super hard, and it's just, in general, a very, very strong spell. Now, the reason that we do not take Phoenix Flames over that is that Phoenix Flames is on the global cooldown, has a 30-second recharge time, and honestly doesn't do that much damage compared to Fire Blast. Now, there are times when you want Phoenix Flames. I ran it pretty consistently during Explosive Week, just to have the extra instance, because we needed to make sure we could one-shot those orbs, and Phoenix Flames will do that for you. However, it felt very awkward and very clunky to run this, as it is definitely on the global cooldown, and it really breaks up your flow. It doesn't feel all that great to run this talent right now. Now, if for some reason, you don't need Phoenix Flames for those guaranteed crits, or, Flame On isn't going to be something you really need, but you're going to be pulling absolutely massive all the time, and you definitely want to make sure you're using, Dragon's Breath on cooldown, Alexstrasza's Fury is a great choice. Dragon's Breath will always critically strike and contributes to Hot Streak. This is great for big, strong AoE packs. Typically not what I go for anymore. I was running this originally, and then I just kind of fell in love with Flame On and the consistency that it has. But Alexstrasza's Fury is definitely the way to go. You know, if you feel you're going to be making use of Dragon's Breath very, very consistently, it'll just help you increase your damage output, you know, outside of cooldowns. Level 75 row, Frantic Speed is the only thing I've chosen pretty much ever as Fire. Making Scorch give you 30% movement speed makes you an absolute speed demon, especially during Execute. It's really good in Siege of Borealis when you are fighting the Ogre boss if you're Alliance, or whatever it is for Horde, I actually don't know. But Frantic Speed is really sweet. Getting extra movement speed will keep you away from things if you need to kite. Just pretty useful in general. If you do need extra roots in the case of, say, you know, you're running some higher keys as Fire, Ice Ward is definitely an option for those Gahunads, just to have the extra Frost Nova in case you need it. You know, or if you're in a dungeon like Tol Dagor, where you're going to have things running all the time, the extra charge of Frost Nova can be nice. Most of the time, though, you won't have to worry about that. So again, Frantic Speed. Ring of Frost is purely situational. I haven't seen a reason to take this yet. You know, if somebody has a good one, please let me know in the comments. I'd love to know where you're using it. I may actually try it. The level 90 row here, this is pretty much our row that will change the most from week to week. The default choice, if you're going to be pulling any sort of large amount of packs, is Living Bomb. The damage from Living Bomb is pretty much exponential. It's one of the few spells in the game without an AoE cap, period. This just does immense damage per cast, if you have enough mobs to support it. During Combustion, the guaranteed crit from absolutely every Living Bomb going off will give you a stupid amount of damage. Incredibly powerful burst. On weeks like this week, when this video is going up here with, you know, bursting, a little dangerous, but as long as your healer can handle it and you're not pulling absurdly large, Living Bomb will cover you pretty well. For pure single target situations, Conflagration is your choice. Fireball applies Conflag to the target, dealing an additional bit of fire damage over 8 seconds. Enemies affected by either Conflag or Ignite have a 10% chance to flare up and deal 510 damage to nearby enemies, basically giving you a little bit of cleave on top of your single target damage through Fireball. This is really great when you have duplicative, I think it's duplicative Incineration, which is the Azerite trait that gives you a chance at an extra Fireball. It's really good with that. Anytime you're going to actually be able to turret quite a bit, Conflag is great. For the most part, though, when I'm running, I will normally just take Flame Patch. Flame Strike, leaving behind a patch of flame on the ground that burns enemies for a decent amount of fire damage over 8 seconds. You can stack multiple of these in the same spot, and during your combustion window, if you are using Flame Patch and Flame Strike to just stack up a ton of damage in one spot along with your meteor, whew, that's some spicy damage right there. Again, though, Living Bomb will probably out DPS it if you got more than 4 mobs, but for, you know, like 3 to 5, for the most part, Flame Patch will do more, if they're going to be living a very long time. If they're smaller mobs, Living Bomb will just eat them alive. For the level 100 row, pretty much the only choice you have is Meteor. Kindling is very niche. There's specific times when you will want Kindling. Mostly, I believe it's like whenever you're fighting against Gahun. There's some, you know, obvious reasons to take it during Gahun just for that extra reduction on combustion, so you have it up more often. Pyroclasm is a bit too RNG and really not as rewarding as it should be. Standing there and casting, you know, hard casting a Pyroblast is really weird. And while this is a good talent, it's very subject to RNG, whereas Meteor is 100%, you know, just a skill shot, you know, making sure you're putting it in the right place and knowing that the target is not going to move, so it can continue to burn on the ground there. This does split damage between everything it hits, so it is actually very strong for both single target and for AoE, and when used during your combustion, it is a guaranteed crit, and it is insane damage. This will make your burst go pretty crazy. So those are your general talents there. Now, a few gearing tips when it comes to fire. Now, a lot of people will tell you to stack absolutely nothing but crit, and while that is a somewhat valid strategy, you don't necessarily have to stack an absolute ton of crit. I myself am sitting at around 952 crit. I'm at 378 item level right now. But I have 952 crit. I'm actually stacking haste and mastery at this point. Mastery will allow us to get more damage out of our ignite, and ignite will do a significantly larger portion of our damage during a boss fight than pretty much anything else, as long as we are maintaining our ignite, which is really easy when you have one target. Mastery in general will cover you for pretty much everything. Because of the way that fire works with, giving you those guaranteed crits from Fireball, which I'm going to pop into the spell book here. Enhanced Pyrotechnics. Each time your Fireball fails to critically strike a target, it gains a stacking 10% increased critical strike chance, and this effect ends when Fireball crits. So what that allows us to do is we can stack a minimal amount of crit. I've actually seen Fire Mages with just an absurdly low amount of crit on Warcraft logs, and they are still doing plenty of damage. Just keep in mind that if you are going to play with that general playstyle, you're going to have to stack Mastery and Haste above all else, and you're just going to be trying to get as many casts off as you can during every combustion window to make up for your lack of crit. In general, though, just general stat weights if you decide to play fire. I got my crit up to around 30% and then started focusing on other stats. It has seemed to work out pretty well for me. At one point I was running close to 50% crit, and then with, any sort of proc and anything else, I realized that I was really just kind of wasting the stat. And when I started simming, I found out that, I just want more haste. And, mastery will scale. Like, you don't get much onto your mastery whenever you stack mastery. However, it is a very large amount of damage. Every little bit of damage that you do from your core spells and the bulk of your damage will get rolled into your ignite, and that ignite will spread, and it really stacks up fast. So do keep that in mind. As far as Azerite traits go, now this here is a Soul Fuel headdress. It's a 385 piece. Not that it really matters what item level it is. Now you'll notice here with the current weights that I have for Azerite power weights, it says Fire AoE. It says that I should be taking Flames of Alacrity. However, in practice, whenever I go and I ran that, my damage was significantly less than whenever I ran Blightborn Infusion. And that is because most of the time I don't actually end up stacking the Enhanced Pyrotechnics all that much, because at around 30% crit, you're going to crit fairly consistently with Fireball. You might go about 3 or so, typically, before you get an extra crit. So, you don't really get much use out of this. It looks very good, but it's kind of deceptive. That being said, Blightborn Infusion gives you an absolutely massive amount of crit, which, again, you don't necessarily need a ton of crit. However, this is almost always up whenever I go and I pop my Combustion, it seems. If you're able to time everything where you have, all your procs up in that, and you're popping Combustion, and this goes up, because of the way Combustion works, you're going to get a 100% crit chance for all your spells, and it gives you Mastery equal to 50% of your critical strike stat. Now, keep that in mind, that this gives you a massive amount of crit. I have 2 of these on decently high item level pieces, so it gives me a little over 2200 crit, and as you remember, that original crit number I have there is like 900-ish. So I'm basically tripling the amount of, I'm going up to triple the starting amount that I had of crit whenever this procs, and then it's also on my shoulder as well, which puts me up to about 80% crit because of the way Fire Mage scales, which then gives me an absurdly large amount of mastery. That puts my mastery way, way up there. I think my mastery goes up to like 30%, and remember, the way that mastery scales, it's very deceptive. It's very, very strong for the fairly low number you see. So that amount of mastery, it actually almost, again, triples my mastery. So it is a very substantial increase during that combustion window. So, if you have these Blightborn infusions, you definitely want to run them with fire, just because they will end up working out really well for you and getting you huge, huge amounts of you know, damage during your combustion window and on your Knight. Now, as far as your, if you don't want to run Blightborn Infusion, you're just going to basically go by the standard stuff over on Blood Mallet, you know, Dagger in the back, Blaster Master, which is a basic fire one here, which I believe I have a piece with it here. No, not on that one. This one, maybe? Yeah, there we go. So Blaster Master makes it that your Fire Blast increases your mastery by 470 for 3 seconds. During your combustion window, you will typically be able to get off 2 to 3 Fire Blasts, giving you a ton of additional mastery during that window, which is absolutely incredible. So, you know, once again, this is pretty much the only fire trait that you're going to be looking for outside of a few very niche situations. Otherwise, Dagger in the back is very good. Your absolute best second tier trait is going to be Overwhelming Power for that absurd amount of haste. If you can get 3 of them, I would assume that's pretty good. But of course, you know, spreading it around a bit isn't a bad idea either. As far as our all your armor goes, Archive of the Titans is great. There's only 1 robe in there for us, so we get an Archive, one with Overwhelming Power. You know, or if you want to go the AoE route, there is Heed My Call on this piece as well. This is one of the ones that has duplicative Incineration, which gives you extra fireball damage and a 5% chance to launch a second fireball. As far as I know, when you stack this trait, you only get the additional fireball damage, and it is still just a 5% chance once, you know, per cast to launch a second fireball. You don't get multiple 5% chances or even a 15% chance if you would have 3 of them. So do keep that in mind. It's not bad to have one of these, especially in single target situations, but most of the time, Archive is just going to beat it out because raw stats are our friend. Now, as far as enchants go, for our weapon, we definitely want Torrent of Elements. If you feel as though you want to go all in on the Mastery build, you can run Masterful Navigation. It is fine. It is, however, not something I would recommend at this point. I would definitely just stick to Torrent. That way you can use it for every spec, every build, and you don't have to necessarily re-enchant your gear. As far as ring enchants go, it's basically pick the stat that you need the most of, whatever sim's the highest for you. You know, just enchant it in there. In my case right now it is haste, so I'm gemmed and enchanted for haste. Here I have a crit in there because it was to get my crit level where I wanted it to be when I'm playing Frost as well, because I do flip-flop between the specs. But for the most part, I am just stacking straight haste at this point. It works really, really well. In general, Fire is in an absolutely excellent spot in Mythic Plus, as long as your group does not necessarily need, you know, the massive snare that a Frost Mage brings. If you do need that, play Frost, don't hold your group back. There's a couple of dungeons where you can definitely play Fire very effectively, one of which is Atal Dazar. It is a great, great dungeon for Fire. With trinkets, because I just realized I completely skipped over my trinket section here. Right now I'm running a Skittering Shadows Vial and a Lion's Grace. These are both fine trinkets. You just want to run the highest item level trinkets you can get. If you are able to get a hold of a good item level Dread Glad's badge, that's what you want. Versatility with use massive primary stat is great because you can macro it into combustion and make sure you have the most intellect possible during your combustion window. I've been unable to get one because RNG really hates me, so hopefully I will get one soon. It works very, very well whenever you are able to make good use of it. Otherwise, just the highest damage trinkets you can get. Sim your trinkets because there is no be-all, end-all. Certain trinkets will not sim very well, but they're listed very high on other tier lists, like on Blood Mallet and other places like that. And then some on Blood Mallet are ranked super high, but they sim very poorly, so, you know, definitely take sims with a grain of salt, but, you know, definitely give them enough attention. You know, and run with them, get used to them. Definitely get yourself a good weak aura to, you know, keep an eye on everything, because not keeping an eye on it's not going to help you. I would show you a basic rotation for Fire here, but unfortunately it is so fast-paced that I would not be able to do it justice, and it would just be a shit show, and I'm not going to do that to you. So for any kind of Fire Mage gameplay, there will be a video up a little later this week with me running a good bit of Fire Mage, and you know, there should be a few other things coming this week too. I've been away for a bit, but I am back now. I'm ready to go. So thanks for checking in today, guys. If you want to play Fire Mage, be sure you check out the resources that are linked down in the description. Ask questions. If you need any help figuring something out for Fire, or for Frost Mage even, just Mage in general, feel free to ask in the comments. I may not be the most experienced Mage, but I have a lot of good resources, and I know where to look to find the answer you might be looking for. So, if you liked the video, liked it. If you didn't, dislike it. Be sure to follow me on Twitter. It's down there in the description as well. Leah went to BlizzCon, and she'll be back. We'll be talking about that soon. And, oh yeah, if you want to support us on Patreon, there is a link there. Thanks again to our wonderful patrons who made my new microphone possible. It has been great since my old one is basically completely dead. And we will catch you next time. Bye-bye.